Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is John M. Hawkins. The show is called My Strategy. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. We're very happy to be here with you today and glad that you could join us. My Strategy radio show episodes are live on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. This episode, we're going to be talking about the best time of day for certain workplace activities. We're going to be talking about the best and worst times of day to do things, learn tips to plan your workday for success, consider the benefits of using a daily planner, and consider taking a nap in the afternoon to regain your energy. We're very happy to be here with you today. My Strategy radio show is all about personal development. And Saturday is the day of the week that we choose to focus on our personal development strategies, thinking about what we've accomplished and our plans for the upcoming week, keeping in mind that now or any time is a good time to assess your personal development strategy, because that's what we focus on at My Strategy radio show. Our show continues to grow. We're on iHeart, iTunes, Player FM, YouTube, SoundCloud, Spreaker, and many more digital platforms. You can find me on many of the social media platforms. My Twitter handle is @HawkinsJohn. That's @HawkinsJohn. And my website is johnmhawkins.com. That's johnmhawkins.com. And just like anything in life, we need to have a strategy and a plan to help us reach our goals, because the best laid plans don't always work. Now this week, we're looking for stories on your workday. What time of day do you find the best for your activities? Do you have any good examples, a tip, or perhaps a trick that we could all benefit from? You send it to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. We'd love to hear from you. All right, so today we're talking about the best time of day for us to do activities. For many of us, the first thing in the morning might be a good time. For others, late in the evening. So we're going to talk a little bit about what the research says about the time of day that we should be doing specific activities. We're going to talk about the worst times of day to do activities at work. For example, we'll talk about when to send emails, when to make decisions about moral and ethical dilemmas. When's the best time to schedule a meeting? When's the worst time to sit down for an interview? We'll then talk a little bit about the importance of planning your workday for success, reasons why you should be using planning techniques, a methodology, a planner to help you be most effective as you can. And then we're going to talk about probably, a subject that I would love to talk lots about, actually I'd love to do more, is taking naps. There's actually some research that talks about taking naps in the afternoon. And if you are a nap taker, that is perfectly okay in our opinion, because there's some science behind it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Well, let's get started. The best time of day to do everything at work, and this is according to science. The author is Hilary Brueck. Hilary says the first thing in the morning can be a great time to do some of your toughest mental tasks. A work calendar that's filled with meetings and deadlines often dictates the cadence of our days. But despite what tightly timed agendas might try to insist on us, our internal body clocks are secretly running the show. Scientists call this personalized daily pattern of sleep and wakefulness a circadian rhythm. How many times do you, throughout the day, feel like someone asks you to do something or you're doing something and it just doesn't feel right? It doesn't feel like the timing is right. It's not that you don't want to do the activity or the task, but you're doing it at a time that for you doesn't make sense or doesn't feel right. Well, that's what we're talking about today. And, when we do certain activities throughout the day that align with our internal body clocks, we are going to be in a much better position for a better positive outcome than if we try and force ourselves to do things outside of those specific windows. So as we're going through today's show, that's what we're going to be thinking about. If someone asks us to do something, or as we plan our own day, try and think about what is the best time of day for you to schedule those meetings. What is the best time of the day to reach out to clients, to reach out to your boss, to talk about certain things. And depending on the subject, there might be a better time of day to do it. So that's the goal. Think about this from a strategic perspective and how can we best schedule our days. Scientists, it says here, whether you know it or not, our bodies have a specifically set program schedule for the best time of day to concentrate, spark new ideas, experience peak performance. Scientists have tracked cognitive abilities rise and fall and found that most of our brains follow a neatly predictable pattern of cognition that fluctuates hour by hour throughout the course of the day. This is according to author Daniel Pink, who revealed his secret formula for the perfect science-backed workday in his New York Times bestseller, The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. The strategy for owning your own perfect day might differ from this, depending on whether you are more of an early riser or a night owl. But in Pink's book, he revealed a basic formula for creating a better work schedule. And that is the caveat. While they can suggest, and researchers can say that this is the absolute best time for us to do certain things, that might not be your internal body clock. It will feel unfamiliar. It will feel forced, and you will not be as effective as you can be. So know that while we're talking about these best times, quote unquote, best times to do things, your results may vary. And we want to figure out what's best for you, because at the end of the day, personal development is about us and our persons. It's not about other people. The article goes on to talk about how scientists who studied 509 million tweets from 2.4 million people in over 84 countries around the world found that just about everyone's mood follows a body clock linked daily rhythm. Who knew? Who knew? We have technology at our fingertips. We have the ability to use it, but our body clock still is running the show. We tend to rise in relatively good spirits. The first morning hours are a great time for following routines and sticking to a schedule. So if you're going to get up and want to get the best out of your workout, perhaps work out before you eat or start your day. Also says our attitudes continue to brighten as the morning wears on, as we awake and become happier and warmer, and this good feeling peaks somewhat around noon. So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's show. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about the best, but more importantly, the worst times of day to do certain things. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins. We're coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Today, we're talking about the best time of day to do things in the workplace. Right before the break, we were talking a little bit about the best time of day for us to do certain activities. One thing I want to add before we start talking about the best and worst times of day is an interesting study that I have here that talks about meetings and specifically earnings calls. It says here that researchers who studied more than 26,500 earnings calls in the United States from 2001 to 2007 found generally that the tone of the earnings call became more negative as the workday wore on. Now think about this. Just the timing of the day of a public company's earnings calls. And they said that just moving an 8 a.m. earnings call to the 3 p.m. slot could translate to abnormal returns of minus 1.5% a year. On average, a Harvard Business Review report said. Now, that is one data point That is not indicative of why these calls were more negative. There's other reasons for it. But we always want to take a look at the data and see what the data has to tell us. As we've learned before on this show, facts do not equate to truth. And in this case, just because the data suggests something doesn't mean it's true, but it is an interesting data point. I'll leave you with that. All right, we're talking about the best and worst times of the day to do things at work. I've got an article here from Jenna McGregor. Jenna says, plenty of well-worn time management advice tells us how we should plan our day. Do the most important things first. Never, ever check your email in the morning. Make sure you make a to-do list the night before. Don't schedule meetings right after lunch when everyone will be half asleep. How many times have you heard these suggestions in your life? And how many times does it kind of go in one ear and out the other? She goes on to say, but what if we organize tasks by when research shows it actually is most optimal to get them done? That's a question she started asking on Leadership. On Leadership is a group, after coming across a recent study that shows the ideal time of day to make moral or ethical decisions is in the morning. And so, we poured over additional research, some academic, some less academic, on tasks and timings, and they've come up with their list of things that we should be doing. But always keeping in mind that our results may vary. 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. is the best time, according to Jenna, to send emails. Why? Many books have been written advising us never to check an email in the morning. And time management experts say do not get mired in our inboxes first thing in the morning, or we won't be able to get critical things done. But of course, people are going to do it anyway. Grabbing their phone off the bedside table, tapping away responses in their morning, on the train, or perhaps giving themselves a breather once they sit down at their desks. And she says this is why sending the email first thing might actually be the best time. Research marketing company HubSpot shows that the highest click-through rate from marketing emails is those sent around 6 a.m. or potentially a bit later, says Mike Volpe, HubSpot's chief marketing officer. He notes that it's ultimately best to know what time the person reading your email gets up and cleans out their inbox. So send the email after that. But if you send it before, it might get lost. 8 a.m. Make decisions about ethical dilemmas. While the time here is somewhat arbitrary, recent research from professors at Harvard University and the University of Utah found that they called the morning morality effect. In 4 experiments of undergraduates and working with adults in computer-based tests, participants were given the opportunity to cheat or lie in order to earn more money. The experiments found that people were more likely to do both in the afternoon. Self-control is like a muscle, says Harvard's Mariam Kuchaki, one of the co-authors of the study. It's restored when we rest and eat. That's interesting. Who knew that how rested and well-fed we felt had an impact on our morality and moral dilemmas? 9 a.m. Avoid scheduled meetings. Hardest part about scheduling meetings isn't really finding the time when everyone involved will be bright-eyed rather than half asleep. It's finding a time when everyone can attend. 1 to 2 p.m. Don't make cold calls, they say, especially on Friday. One might think lunchtime would be a good opening for a new business lead when you catch someone at their desk eating a sandwich or checking Facebook. But research James Oldroyd, business school professor in Korea, called the mad scientist of cold calling, finds the worst time of day to make an unsolicited call between 1 and 2 p.m. 2:30 to 3 p.m. Schedule meetings, but only if it's a Tuesday. In addition to helping us find the worst time of day to try to get people around a table, whenisgood.net's Harris also scanned the data for the best time. The winner, Tuesday at 2:30 p.m. And I've heard that before, that Tuesday at 2 p.m. or 2:30 is a good time to set up meetings when you want to have many folks attend. 4 p.m. Do tasks that don't involve sending email. Again, HubSpot's Volp says that if early morning is the best time to act on an email, late in the afternoon is probably the worst. 4 to 6 p.m. Avoid sitting for an interview. If you catch wind that the hiring manager has scheduled to interview some candidates over a single day or two, and you're applying for some program, it's best not to be the last in the pack, according to a research done by the professors at University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School. There's more here, but finally, 6 p.m., do creative work. If you're the morning person, it might sound counterintuitive, yet research shows that those people who will do their best creative thinking when they're tired. You're listening to My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about planning your workday for success. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this edition of My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins. This is a show that talks about personal development. Right before the break, we were talking about the best and worst times of the day to do things at work. In this segment, I want to talk a little bit about planning your workday for success. Before we get started, as we say, this show is all about personal development. And just imagine for a moment that you are someone, if you could change your schedule, would be as successful as anyone that you wanted to be, somebody that you model your life after. And that's how powerful scheduling your day is. Because at the end of the day, we all have the same amount of hours in the day. We all have our minds, which is the best, fastest supercomputer out there. So what makes those who achieve success different than those who do not? My opinion, take it for what it's worth, is that they've learned to be more efficient, more effective with how they spend their time. So the concept here is, by learning from others who have achieved success, specifically around their personal development habits, we too can find success if we follow some of their principles. So I want to start off with an article here. This is by Tony Robbins. He says, planning your workday for success. Life happens while we are making other plans. While this saying holds a lot of truth, it is also true that a goal without a plan is just a wish. Without proper planning in place, the line between idea and strategy becomes unclear, blurring your map for the future. Whether you're seeking to tame an overwhelmed workload, build a new habit, or create more time for fun, understanding how to plan your day out is key to taking control of getting where you want to go. How to plan your day. Learning how to plan your day means harnessing your skills and time to make the most of your resources. He suggests planning out your day the night before. Human beings have limited willpower. When you attempt to plan your day in the morning, you deplete your supply of willpower first thing. Why do that to yourself when you can just as easily plan your day out the night before? By giving yourself a heads up on what tomorrow will look like, you're mentally prepared the moment you wake up. No need to waste time and energy trying to get focused when your day's strategy is ready and waiting. And I would add to this, we all are at different levels. I'm at one level, you're at another level. And if we think about it from, let's say, 5 levels, there's a basic level and an advanced level and perhaps 3 in between. Some people plan their day constantly. They're always planning for the future. So in this case, Tony's suggesting we plan the day the night before. That might be at a basic level. But those who are at the advanced level, they will continually plan. They are strategic thinkers, but they're always putting execution plans in place. I just thought I'd say that because you might be more advanced than what he is suggesting you do here. I don't want to hurt your ability to be effective here. He says, before you turn on your computer, make sure that you write down the results. By mastering how to plan your day out is a great time to go analog. Get out a piece of paper and write down what end would result from the successful day. And I like this, and I do this. I've got notes everywhere, digital notes, notes on paper. But I like this. Write down what your outcome is. What is it that you expect to achieve? And once you've identified that, it's going to set the goal for the day. It's going to set what you can accomplish. Embrace, and it will give you focus because you have a specific area to focus on for that day. He says embrace ritual. While we're working on how to plan your day out to reach specific goals, embracing a degree of ritual will provide the structure and discipline you need. Just like any new habit, managing your schedule takes consistency to make it second nature. Build new habits into your schedule so that you are reminded to follow them on a consistent basis. We've talked about this before, these new habits. Also, think about the triggers in your day. When something happens in your day, it should be a trigger for you to do another action if you want to have good habits. If you finish a meeting, a couple things with regard to meeting, and maybe we'll spend some time on a meeting, but number one, there should always be, everybody who you need to make the decisions on the call. Second, we should specify what the agenda is and say, what is our outcome? What do we want to accomplish? And at the end of the meeting, we want to assign our actions, our tasks, and also determine if it makes sense to have another meeting. I'm not going to go into too much about the meeting planning. It might be something we'll cover in another show. But having a meeting for the sake of a meeting isn't as effective as it could be. We need to have a formula or format so that we use our time wisely. He goes on to talk about using time management technology, and this is a personal thing, right? Everybody has their own little time management system that they use, and those of you who don't have a time management system, not having a time management system is still an approach. You're just choosing not to use the time management, so that's fine too. But I think at the end of the day, it comes down to finding a planning system that works with you. And as we talk about the circadian rhythm and our natural body cycles, we want to find a planner that helps us. He says, don't afraid to write down your lists. It's okay to cut yourself off if you've not met your goal or objective in a realistic time frame. Schedule everything, especially physical, mental, and emotional. If you don't, you will be overcome by work. And he says regroup every hour to make sure you are on track. You're listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about using your daily planner and creating good routines. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name is John M. Hawkins. The show is called My Strategy. We're coming live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, if you're just joining us, welcome. My strategy radio shows are live on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. But each one of these radio shows is recorded in podcast format and is available via the digital platforms. Today we've been talking about the best time of day for us to do certain workplace activities. We've talked about the best times, the worst times of the day to do things. We've learned plans to help make your workday optimal for success. And in this segment, we want to talk about the benefits of using a daily planner. I don't know what your feeling is on daily planners. You know, I think that some folks really can love getting into the planners and write everything down. There's others who just don't work well with planners. So the goal is for us to figure out what is the most effective, optimal way for us to plan, because we all have to plan. Whether it's writing everything down or remembering it, I think that's a personal decision. I don't want to tell you how to do it, because if I tell you how to do it, you're not going to own the decision. And if you don't own the decision, you do not have a vested interest. And as a result of that, you are not going to do it. The reason I know that is because that is how I operate. If I don't have a say in how we do things, I probably am not going to be following the program. So, all right. So we've got an article here by Barbara Markway, PhD. She's actually about some of the reasons we should use a daily planner. And I want to caveat this with, in segment 5 of our show, we usually talk about our systematic approach to being strategic, which is awareness, assess and analyze, strategize, implement, monitor the plan. So think about this from the perspective of we're gaining nuggets of wisdom here. We are listening to how somebody else plans out their day. But that is not to say that Barbara has all the answers, and if you follow Barbara's way, you're going to be able to accomplish everything you want to do. No, it is a point of view. And you need to find the motivation. You need to find the system that works best for you. She starts off by saying that, for many school families, stores are full of brightly colored notebooks, calendars, planners. And she says that she even has school-aged children in the house. And she said that this is a great time of year to get organized. She's talking about the back to school. She says you might be aware of the basics about daily planning, but have not discovered the many benefits. Take a look at the reasons why everyone, including you, should start using a life planner. It helps with time management. Do you find there is never enough time for anything? If so, it's probably because you are not scheduling your time effectively. This happens when you just run constantly, going from one thing to the next without really thinking about everything as a whole. Using a planner allows you to schedule events, appointments, errands, tasks, so that you know what to expect and you don't run out of time. Set specific due dates, deadlines for everything to help you stay on track and have extra time left for yourself and your family. You can improve productivity, she says. This is important for your personal and professional life. While many people think of productivity as it relates to their job, you also want to be productive at home. This might include getting cleaning and home organizational done, working on projects you keep putting off. Regardless of what it is, planners help you stay on track. They provide excellent stress relief. And I found this to be the case. Stress has many forms, but a common denominator is the feeling of being overwhelmed. You often are stressed due to a hectic schedule, having too many demands, or just putting too much on your plate. Outside influences also affect your stress level. But think about how different it could be if you actually have time for everything and you're able to seamlessly go from one responsibility to the next. And I think this is a good thing is, with regard to stress management. We've done shows on stress management. But if somebody comes to you with an immediate need, it might be an urgent thing in their mind, ask them what the urgency is, and can we talk about this in a few days? Can we talk about this tomorrow? Can we determine, based on what you feel is important, when the appropriate time to talk about this is? Because we only have a certain amount of time in the day. And if you swap out what you are doing for somebody else's emergency, how is that going to affect you and your productivity? It's going to have a dramatic impact on it. So we always want to realize that we have the ability to push back. We have the ability to schedule discussions, but schedule it in the future so that it's not going to impact the things that we're doing. Now, there are times when you want to have that conversation now and quickly to get it over with, because it is something that aligns with your vision, which you're trying to accomplish. So that's another reason why we want to set our boundaries, schedule out meetings, because if we just started working on everything someone sent our way, we would be completely overwhelmed. She goes on to talk about the health benefits. She says planners help you stay healthy in a wide range of ways. It helps your physical, mental health by tracking the things like diet, exercise. You can regularly schedule regular doctors and dentist appointments. Make sure you're getting enough fresh air, vitamin D. Scheduling days spent outdoors. You get mental health benefits by reduced stress and anxiety. She also talks a little bit about journaling. More time for creative activities. Another benefit of using a planner is that because you're sticking to a schedule for all those mandatory responsibilities, it will leave a little free time for your artistic endeavors, whether that means working on a hobby or trying something new. And some people use planners as creative activity in and of itself. Place for records. I like this one, place for records. A final way to use a planner is keeping track of tasks, appointments, and notes. For example, sometimes she can't make the dog's next grooming appointment. When she picks up the dog, it's because there was so much barking and commotion. And if she forgot that when their last appointment was, she can flip back and take a look and see when they're due for their next trim. What are some of the benefits that you see of using a planner? Or perhaps you've got a strategy where you don't use planners. We'd love to hear about that as well. You're listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk about taking naps and how that can help with your productivity. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back, everyone. I'm John M. Hawkins. The show is called My Strategy. Today we've been talking about the best time of day to do certain workplace activities. Right before the break, we were talking about reasons we should use a daily planner. We've talked about our circadian rhythm and how we all have these pre-programmed schedules and how important it is to listen to those schedules. So in this segment, I want to talk about taking naps and how taking a nap might actually be something that you should be doing to help increase your productivity. I do suggest that don't take the nap now. You want to wait till after this show, but you can definitely try this out for yourself. All right. So it says here, a productivity expert says that coffee naps, that they are labeling nappuccinos, changed his life. And here's how. This article is according to Hillary Bruick. She says our body goes into a natural drowsy slump every day, usually around 2 or 3 p.m. One way to stay alert during this slump is to take a 10 to 20 minute nap. Now, I find this to be true too. And as we've talked about first thing in the show, we're trying to figure out our natural body clock and get that aligned with the activities we do at work, because ultimately that's how we're going to be most effective. So for me, by 2 or 3 p.m., I love espresso, and I will take a shot or two of espresso. I know some folks have a can of cola that has caffeine or tea, so there's lots of things we can do, but it says here that one way to start to stay alert during the slump is to take a 10 to 20-minute nap. Some studies suggest sipping a coffee beforehand or any other caffeinated beverage can make your afternoon nap even better. It says here that it typically takes about 25 minutes for the effect of coffee to completely kick in. So you wake up alert, chipper, and ready to focus. Something pretty crazy happens in your body around 2 or 3 p.m. every day. Around this time, many people start to get a little drowsy, and if you can't focus as well as you did a few hours earlier, then you are not alone. And this is part of that natural body clock. This temporary sleepiness just isn't a post-food coma. It's a natural phenomenon of the human body clock. One of 2 daily slumps that are built into our circadian rhythm. You might not have noticed the other energy and body temperature slump because it's happening around 3 a.m. when most of us are still sleeping. It's a performance-sucking problem. Recently, researchers from Harvard Medical School estimated that workplace sleepiness and drowsiness cost the average size Fortune 500 company around $80 million a year. Scientific studies suggest that some of our neural pathways slow down at this time, which means that it's tougher to evaluate problems and make good decisions. I haven't really thought much about this connection between our circadian rhythms and planning, but the more I investigate it and explore it, it's starting to open up some new possibilities for me. It's starting to get me to think differently about how I should be planning my day. And, think about this. On a daily basis, do you find yourself getting tired at 1, 2, 3 p.m. in the afternoon? Perhaps to the point where you're just finding yourself staring off at the computer screen, knowing you have to do something and not being able to do it? It's very common. This happens to everyone. And they suggest that one way to do it is have that cup of coffee, that caffeine, and take a quick nap. The effect of a good, quick nap goes beyond the immediate benefit. Scientists have observed how daily naps can reduce blood pressure, improve immunity, and even lower your chances from dying from heart disease. Harvard sleep researcher Robert Stickgold says naps can even make people better problem solvers. His research has shown that naps help people pick out information from all of the noise. In fact, longtime nap skeptic and author of Daniel Pink, who we talked about in an earlier segment, says that this type of coffee nap, or nappuccino, he has dubbed it, has really changed his life. He talks about napping is not for everyone, though. The Mayo Clinic suggests that if you're having trouble getting to sleep at night or suffer from insomnia, then napping may not be the best post-lunch solution. And that's really what we want to do here, is we want to give you the information, but also know that this is one person's opinion. This is somebody's tip or trick that worked for them. We are not them. And we all need to be thinking about what is the best approach for us. And this makes great sense, right? If you are an insomniac and have a very hard time sleeping, taking a nap in the middle of the day could be the worst thing that you do for you. So that's why, while we do want to learn about these tips and tricks and figure out which ones we can implement in our lives, they aren't all going to work for us. Bottom line, full stop. The article goes on to talk about, if you are interested in learning more, though, about the science-backed art of power napping, they suggest to keep your naps between 10 and 20 minutes long. After 20 minutes of snoozing, people wake up groggy and sometimes take time to recover to a truly alert state. If you keep your nap to 20 minutes, you'll wake refreshed and ready to think. Before you nap, drink a cup of coffee. The caffeine won't fully engage in your bloodstream for about 25 minutes, so drink up right before you lie down. He says there's also evidence about the benefits of sipping a pre-nap coffee or going beyond, keeping you alert when you get up. Research published in the Journal of Scientific Report in February suggests that drinking coffee can improve your brain's ability to process more complex information. Time your nap around 2 or 3 p.m. If that doesn't work, just when you're feeling the most groggiest, try that. And I think probably don't feel guilty about your midday nap or snooze. Something that just comes to my mind is don't take the nap if you're operating heavy machinery or driving a car or doing anything else that requires you to be alert and paying attention. You're listening to My Strategy. I am your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. When we come back, we are going to help you put your plan in place. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this edition of My Strategy. I'm your host, John M. Hawkins, coming to you live from the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. Well, very happy to be here with you today and glad you were able to join us. Just keep in mind that in case you missed this broadcast, you can listen on any one of the digital platforms out there in podcast format. And if you'd like to have something covered in this show, you can send an email to talk@johnmhawkins.com. That's talk@johnmhawkins.com. Or you can give us a call at 844-MY-STRATEGY. That's 844-MY-STRATEGY. Well, in this episode, we've been talking about the best time of day for us to do certain activities. We learned that first thing in the morning was a great time to do some of our toughest mental tasks. There are best times of day, though, for concentration, sparking new ideas, and experience peak performance. Keeping in mind, though, that your strategy will most likely differ from others. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and I want you to learn the tips and the tricks that are out there working for others. But at the end of the day, if you want to grow, if you want to be your personal best, you are going to need to have a say in what that plan is. So we talked about some of the best and also worst times of day to do things. There's so many time management experts out there that are giving us their ideas of how we should be doing things. Things like, don't check your email in the morning. Make a to-do list the night before. At 6 to 8 a.m., send emails because that's when people aren't checking them. 8 a.m., make decisions about ethical dilemmas. 9 a.m., avoid scheduling meetings. 1 to 2 p.m., don't make cold calls. If it's a Tuesday, then 2:30 to 3 p.m. is the best time to schedule your meeting. Don't have somebody write emails after 4 p.m. And never sit in an interview between 4 and 6 p.m. based on research. But again, those are just some tips, some tricks that have worked for some based on data. It's important, though, for all of us to find a way to plan our workday for success. Not just our workday, but our lives, because we only have so much time on this great planet. And we want to, well, I would think you would want to, make the most out of the time that you have. So that's why it's important for us to plan our day. Planning our day the night before without a computer is a good way to do it. Now I know what you're going to say. Looking at the computer is important for us. But what Tony Robbins, who suggested we write down the outcomes for those days, not the tasks we're going to be doing, but the outcomes. In order to be able to do that, we need to find a way to embrace rituals, triggers in our lives that tell us what to do. at certain times of the day so that we are making the most effective choices, that we're doing those activities that are going to help us get to that future state, that wanted state, aspirationally, what we want to achieve and become. We learned that it's important for us to have a mechanism for doing those things. Could be a daily planner. Could be something you do with string on your finger. Whatever it is, you should have some sort of planner in place. Develop your own planning routine. If it helps with time management, improves your productivity, reduces stress, and there's also lots and lots of mental health benefits. Gives you more time for your creative activities, a place for you to store your records. What about making sure that you do the things that are important to you, like exercise, hanging out with friends, being with family? Lots of benefits of planning our lives, making sure we get those health checkups that we all need. It's also important for us to think about the fact that naps are okay. We've talked about all these strategies and tips and tricks here. And as we've talked about in this show, there's circadian rhythm and how our bodies have our own natural clock. Well, naturally, people slump around 2 to 3 p.m. Now, not everybody does. But they do suggest that if you are in a slump and you're not an insomniac, again, there's lots of caveats, one thing you can do is start to take a 10 to 20-minute power nap. They said this isn't the cause of a food coma. It's a natural phenomenon, and in fact, they suggest that it happens at 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. as well, but you don't notice it because you're asleep. The idea is to consider drinking some caffeinated beverage. A caffeinated beverage will take about 25 minutes to kick in, and then when you wake up, you should be refreshed. But limit that time. Don't take a 2-hour nap. Take just enough time to get yourself refreshed. But I think it's important for us to realize that this is all going to come down to our breaking of those bad habits. And for us to break those bad habits and put new habits in place, we are going to need to be aware of them. We are going to need to figure out what are those things we should be doing, what are those things that we should not be doing. And once we've identified those, we need to consciously prioritize them. We need to commit to them. We need to get them into our daily work lives, our daily lives, which means we need to learn about goal setting and ultimately find clarity. Clarity can become about by finding a good coach. Well, that's all the time we have for today. We'll see you next time.